We researched the Case-Shiller index, which begins at a 100 index level baseline. This means that all houses used in this index are measured from a 100-point starting level, in which all other prices are compared from. These were some of the most important observations we made.
So one of the first things we noticed was how flat and consistent Boston is in comparison to the others, particularly with San Diego. It has a much more linear progression, particularly from 2000 up to 2006. It's almost a straight line. The overall shape of all three is very similar. It has this kind of sine wave where it goes up, down, then up again, generally speaking. But Boston is the flattest, and it doesn't seem to reach the peaks and troughs that Portland and San Diego have. We interpreted this to mean that Boston's very resilient to recessions. Their prices stay pretty much the same over time.
Now let's look at San Diego and Portland's data. While looking at the San Diego and Portland indexes, we noticed something was a little different than the Boston. As we discussed earlier, Boston had more of a linear graph, where when we looked at San Diego and Portland, we noticed that the growth was more exponential. As you can see here, San Diego started at 100, and by 2006 it had grown all the way up to 251. While in Boston, we see that the index only jumped to 180. We can look at that and assume that there was a lot more growth in San Diego than there was in Boston. While there was still a lot more growth in San Diego, we can also see that they lost a lot more in the 2008 crash. In the crash of 2008, we see that San Diego went all the way down to about 145 on the index. When we look at Boston, we see that they started at 180 and they dropped down to about 150. So realistically, they only dropped 30 points on the index. When we go back over to San Diego, we see that 250 was the starting in 2006, and we get all the way down to 145. This is over a 100-point decrease since 2006. When we look at Portland, we see a lot of similar features as we do in San Diego's graph. We see the exponential growth in 2006, and when the market drops in 2008, we see a very harsh, steep crash. To conclude, we see Boston has a lot more of a linear graph, whereas San Diego and Portland have a lot more of an exponential graph. This shows us that Boston was not nearly as affected by the 2008 crash as Portland or San Diego was.